All right, greetings and welcome. Time for another broadcast on the New American Media. Again, just going solo again. Brian is on assignment, and so I'm going to be covering it. We'll call it the eccentric perspective again instead of agree to disagree. But we're still working on all the equipment. Today, I guess I'm going to upgrade the microphone. Trying to get my camcorder to sync with the computer because my webcam's in not too good. So anyways, we figure out the new software advances and get things. We can, again, continue to do some shows together. Looking forward to 2019 when we step it up. And hello, Catherine. Good to have you here. And this is sort of, we're doing the news show today. And if any of you, Catherine, or whoever else joins, wants to throw an article out there, wants something that's not being covered by the media, we'll be happy to discuss. I probably should get on the Facebook Live and see what's available there and see what people are posting in the Agree to Disagree forum. But since I'll be going solo, it'll be the eccentric perspective. And anyway, we'll cover current news and events and have a delightful fun. And we'll try to interact here as best as possible. I got a lot of stories today, so let's kind of run through some of the headlines. I think some of them are on the description. Still working on it. But we'll talk about, there's some interesting developments as far as the border is concerned. There is some new stuff going on with, socialism. Socialism versus capitalism. That's going to be a big one. Got a big showdown with Carlson getting attacked, and a big feud going on with Media Matters and not bowing down to the mob tactics. Got some, I should pull up Twitter and see what's trending on there. I know earlier there was a big deal about, I guess, the new Green Deal. And the continued debate against global warming or climate change or whatever they're trying to frame it as. But today, I think we got a lot of odds and ends. My computer tabs are absolutely jammed. I want to try to keep this broadcast relatively short and sweet. I'll just start here with the Hill. This was, of course, the big story yesterday. Pelosi saying that impeaching Trump is just not worth it. And it's also been echoed by Adam Schiff. So that's surprising because they've been, pounding away on this whole Russian investigation, going to turn up something, that Trump and collusion going on, that they're overthrowing the election, destroying the process, and somehow it's got to be, there's something there, and we're going to, I guess, cancel the election, put Hillary back in, or whatever they're trying to do, or just get rid of Trump, and then Pence is going to go up. But anyway, the 2-year investigation has so far yielded not the results that they've been looking for. And they've been forced to basically drop it because, what are they really going to impeach him on at this point? Doesn't look like they've got much to go on. So I guess the smart move would just be to forget about it before they do any more damage themselves. And it was a hot topic yesterday. But again, if you can't find anything with the whole liberal media and the machinery at work to try to find something in the Miller investigation and all the enemies in Congress, and you still haven't got anything, then yeah, it's probably best just to let it go. So hopefully the investigation itself, I don't know when the findings, they've been delaying that, but maybe it's time to end it for the better, the greater good for all of us, and we can actually try to solve some of the problems, which will carry me right into the whole socialist problem we have, or depending on how you want to look at it, because this is a complex issue. This is going to be something that is going to be one of the big battles going into 2020 and possibly beyond, as the country is seeming to, where the millennials, the younger generations, are seeming to like this whole socialist idea. They're seeing a lot of problems with the country right now, and they're blaming capitalism, which I don't think is entirely fair, but it's kind of there are some arguments to be made on both sides. Now, I kind of think I'm a capitalist, but our capitalism has gotten very corrupt. It's kind of a crony capitalistic system right now. Also, our capitalism has social programs, which is kind of like socialism in certain regards, and that kind of works for people. And then there's the democratic socialism being pushed by Bernie Sanders, and there's socialism that we've seen in Venezuela. We've seen pretty much a failed experiment after failed experiment. It's usually not a good idea to let the government get too big and powerful. It's really hard to get rid of and usually doesn't end very well. So, but at the same time, our capitalist system is failing. Now, it was the engine that made us so prosperous and has given us all kinds of freedom, and it's great. But perhaps it's time to make a new system. That's why you're seeing a rise, I think, with this whole socialism ideas, because you're seeing capitalism fail. But there's many different forms of capitalism. Again, this is sort of a crony capitalism where you've got the Federal Reserve and many other pieces and these gigantic companies, and you've got a problem with the disparity of the rich and the poor, and how much is in the hands of the 1%, how much of the wealth is controlled, and it doesn't seem fair. But the answer, I don't think, would be going into some sort of a socialist idea. We have to, but it's going to be something we have to discuss as a nation going forward and how we're going to run things. Now, I would like to see the end of the Federal Reserve. I think even a lot of capitalists would agree there. That has been a problem. And so what do we replace it with? These are the things we discuss. I don't know if putting a 77-year-old socialist in there, Bernie Sanders, and these this AOC, the new Democrats are going very far left and have a lot of wishful thinking and big ideas. I just don't think they're going to work in the face of reality. Hey, and Catherine, sorry, I'm making a lot of comments here. I'm on different windows here. So it says, sorry, just wanted to share on Twitter. Thank you, Catherine. She's saying not sure why they want to talk about socialism in America. This is a free country. Yeah, good points. But I think, the younger generation is seeing a problem with their current system and is embracing this new idea that's going to be the answer to all of our problems. I just don't think that's I don't think the idea of giving more money and power to the current government, who's shown that they don't seem to be very good at spending our money, is going to somehow magically make everything better. And so I see points on both sides. Also, Catherine saying the only collusion is Hillary. Yeah, the collusion I've seen with the election so far is, you could say collusion, whether it's so it's not Russia helping Donald Trump. The collusion I've seen is, it's usually with these tech companies. It's Hillary, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's trying to skew things in their direction by either shadow banning their opposition or banning or censoring. That's one aspect. Another of it was Google and manipulating the search engine results. And that when you type stuff in for things on Hillary, it was always positive, and they deliberately manipulated the algorithms. And so they've done all kinds of things. And then there's other, China, Saudi Arabia, influencing. Their money has had a lot more influence than Russia did for Trump. That was all BS. They just had to blame somebody, I guess, when they lost. And good points, Catherine. They could not find the results. Hillary's crime says they love free. This is back to the socialism. What they don't realize is the free comes with some exchange, like giving up your freedom for free stuff. The price will be too high either way. Yeah, in the current system, it's not going to work to add socialism to the mix. We're already 22 trillion in debt, and we're going to just start ballooning up some of these social programs. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think the easiest solution is just to, get rid of the Federal Reserve and wipe out 22 trillion in debt. But then you've got, there's a lot of problems with that, including the fact that it's kind of based on the petrodollar, and then that's kind of how we've become so powerful with the military and so many things, is by being able to print money out of thin air. It's kind of given us an unfair advantage economically. So the United States, it changes our entire way of life. But at the same time, what's the alternative? We're going to be debt slaves to the bankers for the next, for the rest of our lives and beyond, future generations, because of the incredible spending we had back in the 80s and 90s and such. Catherine says, this is what Ron Paul has spoken about for years. Yes, good call on that. I was a delegate for Ron Paul in 2012. He really inspired a lot of people into action, including myself. And yeah, that's we didn't always have the Federal Reserve. That has only been around since 1913, and we were on the gold standard until 1971, until Nixon took us off and made an unholy deal with the Saudis, it became the birth of the petrodollar, and has been the big rise of the military-industrial complex, and has given us all kinds of other problems. So it's weird. I don't know what the solution is, but it's going to be upon all of us to have civil discourse, for all of us to work together and find something that's going to work for everybody. Catherine says, again, about Hillary selling our uranium. Yeah, there's a lot more to the the Clintons and what's going on, rather than all this witch hunt against Trump and Manafort and Roger Stone and what have you. There's far more interesting characters to go over on the other side with, Bill and Anthony Weiner and the Podesta brothers. There's some pretty sick people on that side. They have a lot more to hide. And of course, yeah, Uranium One is a great point there. And Catherine also, wow, good stuff, Catherine. Perhaps like Iceland, we need to get rid of the international banksters. Absolutely. The whole world would benefit by getting rid of, or just by wiping out the debt or doing something, because this is not going to be a sustainable system for us going forward. Iceland had the right idea and, wiped out their debt and jailed a lot of their bankers, and now they seem to be doing much better. So kudos to them. And so we have to find some way to do that. But a lot of people have a lot of money and wealth at stake and don't want to see things end. I can't say I blame them, but it's for the greater good for all, and not just the 1%, as they say, which is, I believe, leading to this socialism problem. So I can start here with a quick article out of Axios. I think this was off of Drudge yesterday. From an exclusive poll, young Americans are embracing socialism. So you've got Generation Z as a more positive view of the word socialism than previous generations, and along with millennials, are more likely to embrace socialistic policies and principles than past generations, according to a new poll. And why that matters. And here's the thing. They think the government should be providing universal health care, providing tuition-free college. A lot of them are saying they prefer to live in a socialist country, but how would they know? They support abolishing ICE, which makes that's not a good idea, at least at this time. That government should allow private insurance. Now, I guess one of the interesting things is I'm a former Democrat. I was a Ron Paul Republican because I voted, because I wanted to get on board there. But I kind of see myself kind of in the middle of Green Party and Libertarian, where I think the government should be a lot smaller, significantly smaller than it is now. I believe in a small, efficient government, but that the few things that it should provide would be health care and school and the environment, but in a vastly different context. There's way too much corruption in the healthcare industry and big pharma. It's become just a money-making racket. So once a lot of that stuff is the corruption is taken out, things will be reduced, the costs substantially, and maybe there could be something done as far as making it a big social program. Education, I think it's important for our country to want to provide some kind, and not where these professors are making just ridiculous amounts of money either, because college is a scam, the student loans. But I mean, we should be interested in trying to build up our own people. I don't, instead of the way things are right now. And of course, the environment's another story on that, because there seems to be a lot of debate on what the science is as far as the climate goes, or the EPA. Fossil fuel industries, that's another story. But getting back to this article, they're saying, why does it matter? The word socialism does not carry the same stigma it did in the past. Yeah, because we used to be so wealthy. It was a different society. But now you got both parents, two parents working full-time jobs and struggling to get by. And these new generations, and the college, then they're going into debt. They're not able to find jobs. They're spending a small fortune on getting a degree and then paying that off for the rest of their life. And you can't even write that off. You can't even file bankruptcy and write that stuff off. And the healthcare costs are just out of control. I don't blame a lot of these young people for, trying to find a different system. But again, I think it's creating a new form of capitalism. Maybe something fun for the 21st century that works for everybody, fair and transparent. But the general Generation Z and the millennials are projected to make up 37% of the electorate in 2020. And what they're looking for in a presidential candidate is shifting. So the three voting issues for Generation Z are mass shootings, racial equality, immigration policy, treatment of immigrants. Millennials are concerned about healthcare, global warming, climate change, and mass shootings. And the Gen X, I guess that would be me, top issues are access to healthcare, terrorism, national security, and the national debt. Those are the same issues for the boomers and older. So yeah, there's some common ground here. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings as far as gun control go, the immigration policy, but probably save those for another day. I'm going to move on. Catherine, I'm going to check in on you too and see if you're what you got for me there. And I also want to talk about maybe an issue I was on Facebook talking about, socialism and getting engaged in that. Catherine's saying this can be better distributed. Yeah, absolutely. There's like a new kind of capitalism with the social programs. I think there's something that we could create there. I've actually got a lot of ideas. Maybe I'll put forth, because you got this Green Deal. So you got the people that just want things to stay the way they are, and then you've got these newcomers and the old timers like Bernie Sanders, the Democrats, or the Elizabeth Warrens, trying to propose this Green Deal, which is just a little insane, a little bit wishful thinking, and not going to work within this system. But I think there's a place where we can all find a common ground. Catherine saying give free usually ends up being in a third world medical or lower standard or education, which we've seen already in socialist countries. Perhaps they need to go spend some time in Venezuela. Yeah, that's why I'd like to keep the government as small as possible. They should be there to keep the costs down. I don't know, try to find the best education that works, and not just make some big giant all-encompassing federal program that's going to be for everybody, the whole Common Core, and the people that are manipulating that to have their curriculum being the only thing available. That's another mess. Catherine also saying you can't have everyone from everywhere living in America. You've got to have borders. Yeah, there's supposed to be a regular immigration policy. It's supposed to make sense. We're supposed to embrace that. Having immigrants, we know who they are, and they come here to better themselves and to embrace our culture, not just have a wide open border and a big free for all, and we don't know where they're going or who they are. It makes no. Everyone used to go to Ellis Island and proper channels, test them to see if they have any illnesses. They used to want to see if they have, they have smallpox or something. They quarantine people, but now you have people that are coming in, they have diseases or what have you. You got a massive problem with the opium coming in, the drugs, the human trafficking. It's not supposed to go this way. But where was I? Oh, I wanted to talk about, so one of my favorite bands, it's a band called Cake, and I like their music, but they put out a lot of stuff. I follow them, kind of, I don't want to say liberal hackery, but sometimes it's very, it's engaging, it's fun, but it's kind of a little too liberal, too out there, and they really do challenge a lot of the people, the Republicans or what have you, to come up with a argument. So they posted this the other day on Socialism. It's a post they got from Reddit, and they're asking, so Cake is saying, is this an unfair portrayal because freedom? Explain your nuanced approach. So I always kind of think they're a little overly liberal and to the point of like pushing socialism. I could be wrong. I don't entirely get their stuff, but it was a thought-provoking post, and I wanted to share because I kind of agree to some extent. So somebody named Sam on Reddit says, I think people aren't giving the internet enough credit. You grow up being told how great capitalism is, and then you get online and find out that people in other countries have the same standard of living we do, but without the constant fear of bankruptcy. And there's another problem. It's this whole cutthroat system we have where people lose their jobs. I mean, it was one of the problems with the border wall, was that we're worried about all these federal workers. We have like a 30-day shutdown or whatever, and people aren't able to pay their bills. I mean, the system is way too aggressive where, people are hurt. People don't have a lot of supplemental income. Most people don't have like 90 days worth of finances if anything goes wrong. And so I get it why people are upset, but it's wrong to blame capitalism, which is what this person is saying, how great capitalism is, and it has been. We wouldn't. But again, let me finish it before I get into all my thoughts here. Going on to say, you grew up thinking that going to the doctor is expensive. You don't get sick, and if you don't go until you're sure you have to, and then you find out that most of the developed world can go to the doctor for free, or at least for a very affordable rate. Yeah, again, that's what Catherine said. There's nothing for free. But if there's a way to take all the middlemen out, to make a system that's not trying to profit off of sick people, if we're trying to, push nutrition and make people healthy, there wouldn't be such a burden on the system, and then it wouldn't be so bad. And then the people that do have to use the system could put in more money, what have you. I think there's a good social program that could be made, and I don't think that we put a cost on the health of our people. I think any kind of enlightened, if we're really truly an evolved country, or earthlings or what have you, we're team humanity, we should be, we shouldn't be trying to, capitalize on sick people. That's a problem. But I don't think necessarily socialism. There are countries, Cuba is an example where they have great medical care, but they have all kinds of other problems when you have totalitarian government running everything. So here's another one. You grew up thinking work hard and be successful, and you can retire at 65 and travel a little. And then you get online and find out pretty much all of Europe gets weeks and weeks of vacation time a year and is doing their traveling in their 20s and 30s and loving it. And I can, again, empathize with this. I was a Las Vegas bartender on the Strip for 15 years. I met everyone from all over the world. And yeah, I would see a lot of these Europeans. They always had like a month of vacation at least, where in America, for me, it was always like, you work a couple of years, you get like 1 week of vacation, and maybe after 5 years you get 2 weeks. Or it's hard to get that, and it does feel like it's all work and no play sometimes, just in that rat race of just working. And a lot of people, they work 9 to 5 and they just live to get on the weekends, and they maybe get their 1 week vacation a year, and it doesn't seem like it used to be. And where I meet these Europeans, yeah, they seem to have, that's the way it should be. You should be able to work hard and play hard. Need more of that going forward. I think we have to rethink a lot of the work schedules. Maybe, I think the 40-hour work week was kind of something for like a single parent to do. When I think about how capitalism seemed to work back in the day, or I think of the golden age, it's where mom got to stay at home and the dad worked 40 hours and was able to live in a house and have 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and everything was fine, and had 2 cars, and everybody was fine. I think it's a 40-hour work week or more is designed for a single parent to take the brunt of it. And I think that's a noble thing. But when both parents are working 40 hours a week and the kids are in daycare and they're still struggling to get by, I mean, that's just, we're losing that American dream. Anyway, let's move on to the next part. The list goes on and on. Okay, this probably isn't all of this is that relevant, but he says when he hears that someone else had a kid and it didn't cost them any money, or they got a year off to raise it, it gets free daycare, they go to Spain twice a year for vacation, it's pretty hard to still feel content with your 60-hour work week, 2 weeks off a year, and you're still discouraged from actually using. Yeah, it's one thing. I've had times where I've accumulated a bunch of vacation, but then you can't see. You got to put in to get your time off, and you might get rejected. I mean, we got to have corporations and companies are important too. We got to find a way where it works. But I see what they're saying, and a lot of people do. If you work in any kind of managerial thing, you are probably going to be working 60 hours a week. It's just, it's no way to live. And I get what they're saying, but and it's another time about the health insurance as your second biggest monthly bill. Yeah, no, it's not fair. And I've been through all this stuff. I've filed bankruptcy. I don't have health insurance. I can't afford it. So I get what they're saying. For a lot of people, they can't get by doing that. So I wrote on here, and this led to a big discussion, said, I agree, but the problem is not because of capitalism. That's how things used to be before our country became too corrupt and devolved into some sort of crony capitalistic plutocracy, kleptocracy. Regardless, the answer is definitely not socialism. We need a reset and to replace our failing system with a new and improved form of capitalism. I actually got a lot of activity on that, and then a lot of people were laughing, but I don't know if they're laughing at necessarily what I'm saying, because that's where it's hard to find out who, and there's a lot of people that are jumping on this socialism thing. I don't know if I can get into all the comments back into this. Somebody says, guess it's time to shut down all the fire, police, road services, schools that are all social programs then. Healthcare would just be one that would also exist to protect and save lives. Requiring companies to actually pay people, enforcing certain perks to be standard. So again, this is kind of, where do we have? We have a new form of capitalism with social programs that we can agree upon. I don't know. It's a big issue, but one that we're all going to have to discuss, because this is a huge issue going into 2020. Catherine, lots of good comments here. You can't, Green Deal comes at an extremely high cost. You also can't have any tourism with no planes being able to fly. Oh yeah, some of the stuff is just ridiculous with the cow farts and the Yeah, whether there's going to be getting rid of planes or fossil fuels entirely. I don't know how people are going to travel. Um, let's see. Catherine says she's an immigrant from, let's see, been here 30 years from South Africa. You understand immigration, but you have to have borders. Yeah, we all do, but apparently in this country, we don't care anymore. So, and there's another angle to that, and I've got an article about that, is whether they're trying to make these people voters. That's pretty scary. Catherine also saying big pharma is all about making money for themselves. Cures don't aid them to get rich. It's a for-profit industry. They're making money off of sick people. And big pharma, they're not interested in cures. They're interested in how much money they can make off your disease. Cancer is a huge thing. I mean, there could be a cure for cancer. There's talks that this is something that's going to happen going forward, that there are some cures. I don't know, because they want to make as much money as possible. And that's one of the problems we have, one of the big problems we have in this country. So it says pay to play is when the 1% got bigger and the small businesses were crushed. Says, yes, and when Catherine was in South Africa, they had 3 weeks paid vacation per year. We never earned hourly wages. We got a salary and got some commissions to make more. But yes, 3 weeks for any person working is necessary for you. Yeah, well, in America, unfortunately, it seems to be a struggle. I mean, that's the way it should be. I think. I don't know. I think they got to get rid of the 40-hour work week, because there's another problem when we're talking about AOC and this Green Deal. And there's another comment about how automation is going to be taking a lot of our jobs. And speaking of where I was talking about bartending in Las Vegas. I was on the Strip. I worked for MGM, the company, which was a great company to work for. MGM Grand and New York, and now my job is going to be replaced with robots. They're going to get automated bartenders now. So that's going to be a big deal. That would have crushed me had I stayed. I actually worked in a service bar for 2.5 years. And I could only imagine getting replaced by a computer. But at the same time, it's this changing industry. And what do we really need to do? But what about, say, we get rid of the 40-hour work week and make it a 24-hour work week? Not for everybody. I mean, people, if they want to, make more money, can work as many hours as they want. But maybe we have to change some of the standards or find new jobs. A lot of the things are going to have to be changed with education, the workforce, medical. So many different things. Catherine says burnout, have a lower performance of work. And I just remember being in that rat race, and to some extent I still can, and I still will. It's no fun working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. You're 40 hours, you're exhausted. Mondays are a horrible thing. Wednesday's hump day. You build till Friday, and then you get drunk Friday and Saturday. You spend Sunday all hungover, and then you just right back to work on Monday morning, and just repeat the cycle over and over. And if you're lucky, you might get more than a week of paid vacation. But that's not the way I think life should be. It wasn't intended. I mean, I don't know, but I think there's a better ways going forward, and I'm excited to help try to build those days into the future. So maybe future generations won't have to work so hard. They can work smarter and have more fun and have a better life than we have. It also says corruption is the biggest problem in America. Yeah, probably. That's seriously. We've had one of the greatest engines of success the world has ever seen. But with the Federal Reserve and any number of things, it's certainly hurt us. She says California allows the illegals to vote. It's insanity. And she says you cured your cancer naturally. Totally refuse their operations and poisonous meds. Good for you. Yeah, there's a lot of people now that are just getting away from that. There are a lot of the chemo was no guarantee. And I mean, I think if I was diagnosed, there's no way I would do the chemo. I would do anything unless it was something extraordinary. I think the best thing would be just to get to be as healthy as possible. Work on that. Work on nutrition. Get some sunlight. Do any number of things to make your body into the most healthy it can be without just poisoning yourself to the point of trying to kill the cancer and then surviving that. It's pretty. There's got to be a better way, I would think. Catherine's saying the 1% are finding ways to get rid of humans in the workplace. Perhaps they'll farm us to eat. Yeah, no, LOL. Who knows? Yeah, there's some good documentaries out there. I think one of them's called "The Future Doesn't Need Us" or something. I'm going to have to look at that. But yeah, things are going to be automated, and maybe it's a good thing for a lot of people. Have a lot of really mundane jobs. Maybe we get rid of the 40-hour work week. Maybe 24 hours a week wouldn't be so bad. One day to serve the collective, and the rest of the time you can either find other things or use your time however you want. I would also disagree with the whole AOC, mandatory minimum. They're going to start paying people to not work. I don't get that either. Catherine, people are getting sick because of the GMO and the chemtrails. That's also, fair game. The GMO is not good for you. Chemo is like putting your body in a microwave, cooking it from the inside out. Yeah, good stuff, Catherine. Yeah, I agree with you on all of that stuff. Well said. And so I think we'll move on to the next. We'll get back into the socialism, maybe a couple more articles to discuss. Bernie Sanders pitching his progressive track record to New Hampshire voters, saying Bernie, undaunted by President Trump's plan to attack democratic socialism, launched his New Hampshire campaign Sunday, insisting that his radical ideas from the run-up to 2016 are right for 2020 and embraced across the board by his party candidates now. Yeah, he's the big new leader for the future wave of progressive socialism. But we need to come up with better ideas to counteract that, so we don't get stuck in that. Because once you get into that socialism and a big government, it can be really difficult to get out of. So among a field of like-minded Democrats vying for a chance to unseat Trump in the 2020 election, Sanders is trying to win potential voters on the idea that he was the first to advocate for those progressive ideals. We got to give him a pat on the back. He says, those ideas that we talked about 4 years ago that seemed so very radical at that time, well, today, virtually all of those ideas are supported by a majority of the American people and have overwhelming support from Democrats and independents. Well, I think maybe those ideas are supported by the vast majority of the young progressive Democrats. I don't think that really encompasses the American people at large who are not socialist, but we are seeing that rising trend with the new generations. But anyway, Sanders told the hundreds of rally goers in his return, he says, their ideas that Democratic candidates all across the board are supporting. Yep. Whether that's a good idea for the country, well, that's going to be the battle. We've got Donald Trump here warning that socialism is easy to campaign on, but our country would go down the tubes. So during an interview with Breitbart on yesterday, it's Monday, he said he pointed out to socialist policies that some candidates are supporting as things that are well-intentioned but ultimately destructive. That's probably where I would be in full agreement. He says, now with that being said, you always have to be careful because socialism is easy to campaign on but tough to govern on because the country goes down the tubes. But when you tell people free medical, free education, no more student loans, all of the different things that you say, it's a great thing to campaign on, but then 10 years later, the country is down the tubes, it's gone. And then, yeah, you can only imagine, especially if there's state-run media, which tends to go hand in hand with some of these socialist countries. They control the narrative. And if you think the censorship is bad on social media now, wait till you have a powerful socialist government. And good luck getting out of that. And then one of the other Democratic candidates, Howard Schultz, slamming the Socialist Democrats, quote, "There's nothing free in America." So former Starbucks CEO and possible independent candidate for president Howard Schultz slammed Socialist Democrats for proposing unrealistic ideas and noting nothing in America is free. So I guess he was at South by Southwest the past weekend, and Schultz fired daggers at extremists in the Democratic Party, giving some indication why he can't consider making a presidential run as a member of their resistance. He is dismayed to see so many radical socialists taking over the party, something he suggests is a far cry from adhering to American values. Here's a quote. "For us to start moving towards a level of socialism is such an extreme position and something that is inconsistent with the values, the heritage, and the tradition of the country." According to Schultz, we'll leave it with, yes, that is what Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and others are proposing to try and defeat Donald Trump with a far extreme proposal. Schultz believes that if any of the extreme Democrats end up becoming the nominee against Trump in 2020, he will easily coast to re-election. Yeah, I agree with that. He's actually one of the more intriguing candidates, I think. But so far, I would say this is going to be an epic landslide for Trump. And I don't think the socialism stuff is going to work well. Maybe in 2024, but I think it's probably time to destroy it now in the battle of ideas before it gets too far out of control. Okay, moving on. So, Catherine. Oh, interesting stuff. Big Pharma paid $904 billion to the FDA. Who they serve now is Big Pharma. She says Bernie sold out to Hillary. What leadership qualities is that? Yeah, I was there. I was in Philadelphia for the DNC, and that was some devastating news that the people had to deal with at that time. They were beside themselves. There was a big, huge gathering. I didn't really see any Hillary supporters when I was in Philly. I was at the convention the whole weekend. I don't know if it was 4 days or what have you. I was at the RNC in Cleveland. Then we went to the DNC in Philly. Little road trip, great time. And yeah, Bernie supporters everywhere, but the Hillary people were hard to find. The only ones I did see were a parody from James O'Keefe and one of his assistants pretending to be Hillary supporters. And then the Bernie people were attacking them verbally. So that was interesting. Catherine saying socialism works on paper but doesn't work in practice. Why have they ended it in other countries? Because it doesn't work. Yeah, one of their models is they're always pointing toward Sweden as being this socialist utopia, but they're not really socialists. They have social programs, again, but that is not how they run. A lot of the ones that we've seen, the socialists, have ended in disaster. Let's see. Catherine's also saying the Democrats are not the Democratic Party anymore. George Soros controls them with his socialism. Hillary and Obama were his puppets. Yeah, Soros is a huge financier for liberal causes, liberal media. And I completely agree with you, Catherine, because I was born and raised a Democrat. I voted. That was my philosophy. I used to argue that in the 80s and 90s. Maybe more in the 90s. I was a big fan of the Bill and Hillary and wanted Gore to win in 2000. And then I kind of woke up, became libertarian, and now I don't recognize the party anymore. I could still say I'm a Democrat in a Thomas Jefferson way or a John F. Kennedy way, but to the current Democrat, I would say that I'm still a liberal. I've always been a liberal, but I just have nothing in common with the latest Democrats. They've gone so radical. Of course, I'm anti-socialism and anti-communist, but that's a side issue. But yeah, I don't know what this party stands for, and they really have no identity. They're fractured and they're fighting, and they have no really good candidates so far in 2020. So they're probably going to get steamrolled by Trump. Anyway, we'll move on to the next topic. So we have more. We can always go back and forth. And of course, anybody welcome to post your own stuff on the channel on YouTube. Say something that needs to be covered. We can do that too. A big battle going on with the media. Speaking of George Soros, he funds a lot of this Media Matters for America. He is the biggest financier for it. And they are a left-wing attack group. They call themselves a watchdog, but they are not. They are anything but. And they put out a lot of the talking points for the liberal media. And they used to have meetings with Obama in the White House. And they dug up a bunch of old dirt on Tucker Carlson. And this has been a big story. So Unearthed Audio shows Tucker Carlson using white nationalist rhetoric and making racist remarks. This is from Media Matters. So they have these researchers, these with the deep pockets of Soros and his money. They are able to get this big staff of people, and they've just, it's embarrassing that they are spending so many of their resources going after Tucker Carlson, but it just shows how badly the Democrats are getting crushed. And, Tucker Carlson used to be like somebody you wouldn't even take seriously. He was just kind of this goofy guy on Fox News with his bow tie. And he was just such an easy target, I thought. I don't really, but he was just kind of a laughing stock, I thought, for many years until recently, when he's just kind of seemed to reinvent himself. He's got the new big program, big prime time on Fox, and he's been doing an amazing job. And he's been very, open and honest, and has been having great conversations with these people. He's bringing in all kinds of liberals or Democrats or what have you. Anybody that has a voice that wants to talk has been on his show, and he's absolutely crushing their narratives every day. And so since they can't seem to beat him, which is embarrassing enough, they're going after finding really old dirt on him. They're digging through old stuff when I guess he used to be a regular caller into the Bubba the Love Sponge show. It's a popular shock jock radio program where he spoke with hosts about a variety of cultural and political topics in often vulgar terms. And in addition to making many misogynistic remarks and sexual comments about underage girls, Carlson, who was hired by Fox, also repeatedly made racist remarks. And some of this stuff is kind of, it's, I don't want to say it's not really, it was definitely bad at the time, but I kind of get where he was coming from. Wasn't that, so let me go into some of these comments. So here's this paragraph. Carlson credited white men for creating civilization and made numerous racist remarks about the Obamas, including agreeing that Michelle Obama would be a problem because she turns into a sister, and asking of Barack Obama, how is he black, for one thing? He has one white parent, one black parent. Carlson called Iraqis semi-illiterate primitive monkeys, and said that Afghanistan is never going to be a civilized country because the people aren't civilized. So he also said that he had zero sympathy for Iraqis because they don't use toilet paper or forks, and that the war could turn around if somehow the Iraqis decided to behave like human beings. So, I mean, again, it's context. Now, this was... this is a time where I really didn't like Tucker Carlson, but I'm actually surprised that he made some of these comments, because back then he kind of seemed sort of milquetoast and kind of soft. So I'm actually kind of surprised that they unearthed this, and some of it is not good. I can't sit here and defend it all, but I mean, it's not like this is all like old news to me, and it's shock jock stuff. And to me, it's almost kind of humanizes Tucker a little bit, where I seem to think that they're, a lot more sanitized when they're on Fox. I was really a Fox News hater through the Bush years. I really didn't like Fox News until probably 2013, probably, because even in 2012, when they were starting to make more sense, And they really, I was in the Ron Paul camp for the Republicans, and not the Mitt Romney crowd. And that was another problem, but that's a side issue. So there's a lot of little things that they talk about. This is a huge article on Media Matters, and I don't have time to go into all of, just to analyze every single piece of it, but I pretty much mentioned all the highlights off their own article. And it's a double standard. Hey, I'm looking at the top comment on here. It says it's waiting for Media Matters piece on Jimmy Kimmel from his days on the Man Show. Should be good, still waiting. But of course, they're not going to go after their own people. But anyway, we'll move on from that, because now Tucker Carlson says that we will never bow to the mob. All of these resurfaced comments, and this could happen to anybody. I'm no angel myself. I've done a couple hundred broadcasts, and sometimes I try to do uplifting, inspiring stuff, and then sometimes I can get into the comedic realm, shock jock stuff. So I'm sure I've got my lot of dirt on me, and I think everybody does. But I mean, what are we supposed to do? I mean, we should all have an opportunity to maybe call stuff out. But I mean, these Media Matters people, they try to go after your sponsors. They try to destroy your character. They take it too far, and it's just going to hurt everybody. Because hey, we're all human. We're far from perfect. We're limited in many ways, and we do say and do stupid things, myself included. And how far do we want to go with this, to try to ruin ourselves? And especially in these days when everything's on social media and you can't delete anything on the internet. It's one thing when you could say things back in the day, and it was hard to find stuff like that. But now it's a different world. And again, it's embarrassing that Media Matters would have to stoop to that in order to attack Tucker Carlson. Could you even imagine years ago trying to say the Democrats and liberals would have such a hard time debating Tucker Carlson that you would have to go dig up old dirt of him on an old shock jock radio show in order to try to ruin him? So let's see, from The Hill, it says Fox News host Tucker Carlson rejected what he called a culture of outrage from both Democrats and Republicans amid the fallout from recently resurfaced offensive comments he made about women and minorities years ago. And he gave a 7-minute opening monologue on his show with graphics that read "The mob cracked down on dissent and liberal hypocrisy." And while he did not reference any of his specific controversial comments, he doubled down on his initial refusal to apologize for them. And good for him. So he says, "We've always apologized when we're wrong, and we'll continue to do that. That's what decent people do. They apologize, but we will never bow to the mob ever, no matter what." So he says the great American outrage machine, and he still faces criticism. So, and it's a deadly, serious effort to crush those who oppose their ideology. Anyway, so it's it's not a good trend. And we'll probably get into one more article about that. I think it was written by Ben Shapiro. It's actually pretty good stuff. Get back to the control room and say hello to Catherine and what been away here. Let's see. What do you have, Catherine's talking about? Did you see how they found that Crazy Eyes new elected people? I bet Soros money is behind it. It's a group that advertises for people to get into politics. I'm guessing you're talking about AOC. Yes, she has been the gift that keeps on giving. And I wonder what kind of money she's getting. And she's already in trouble, I think, with the FEC. And they're doing shady things with the money. And that's going to be a problem for her, too. Catherine saying the underage girls. Who knows more about that than many of the politicians? I'm sure everyone knows who most are. Yeah, speaking of that, that would be directly with Bill Clinton. And messing with Monica Lewinsky, who was a 21-year-old intern, but then he hangs out with Jeffrey Epstein, who was known to hang out with underage girls, including that they were sex slaves, and taking him to his. He had over 20 trips on the Lolita Express to I think it's the Bahamas. Him and Bill, and with his underage sex slaves. So, and then you have Anthony Weiner, who's been busted several times going after young women, and finally actually served some jail time. And you got the Podesta. You got John Podesta, the former chief of staff for Bill Clinton, and with the WikiLeaks. And he's got some weird thing going on with, looks like he's got some kind of a pedophile. He's a real creeper. They have to dig into his stuff. But there seems to be the problem. And the thing with Tucker was something about, it's out of context, and it was some thing about arranged marriages. And he wasn't really saying that much. It was the Bubba the Love Sponge guy who was trying to say, shock jockey stuff, and made for a nice soundbite. And then Media Matters took it out of context and used it to smear him. Catherine said, we have all said or done something in the past to be dug up. Yep, everyone does. But digging up years and years doesn't achieve a damn thing yet. It just kind of all brings us down lower. It's not a good thing. He says, you think we had much better and more important things to be concerned about, but this way they keep you busy while they get something that's not good. Yeah, not see their pedophilia behavior. Yeah, I think there's a lot more stuff going on with the Podesta brothers and Bill Clinton and Anthony Weiner on that side. There's nothing going on with Tucker Carlson. He's kind of a square, kind of a nerd. Maybe not. I was kind of impressed with that he was on the shock jock stuff and was able to kind of, be a little bit more human. So, some of the stuff was weird, but I mean, for the most part, I think that actually probably, gained him some more credibility. Catherine says, shady stuff. That's what happens in socialism. Ain't that the truth? So Ben Shapiro, I don't want to go, this is a long article. It's actually pretty good. It says, Media Matters this weekend released a compendium of old Tucker Carlson quotes, a period during which Carlson routinely called into the shock jock show Bubba the Love Sponge. So Carlson, among other things, called Martha Stewart's daughter I don't know if I can say this. I could say this. I just don't know if I get flagged for it. But the CONT word, joked about 14-year-old. See, I don't even know Martha Stewart had a daughter, and much less if she's a C word. He joked about 14-year-old girls experimenting, and defended a rape facilitator, Warren Jeffs. I don't even know who that is. It's all old stuff. I didn't even really get into social media and politics too much, or at least running my own stuff, until after this was already over. That's from 2006 to 2011. I mean, Facebook was barely a thing, maybe when 2009 or so. I don't even remember. But anyway, yeah, it's really digging up old stuff. I mean, where do they have old cassette tapes? Where do they even get this Bubba the Love Sponge archive from anyway? So it was a political hit. Media Matters, contrary to media descriptions, is not a media watchdog organization. It is a political smear factory designed to perform precisely that function against anyone to the right of Hillary Clinton. The organization was founded by professional smear artist David Brock in conjunction with the Center for American Progress, an organization itself founded by, guess who? John Podesta, the Clinton White House chief of staff. Hillary Clinton herself advised Brock on the creation of the organization. And then you've got mega donor leftist George Soros has poured money into it, announcing in 2010 that Media Matters is one of the few groups that attempts to hold Fox News accountable for the false and misleading information they so often broadcast. So, yeah, again, that's pretty much exactly what I said. And there's a lot of good stuff. And I don't know where I can, but yeah, it can happen to anybody. And good on Carlson for not backing down to this. Nobody should. But anyway, and I think it should be fair. Maybe just the Media Matters hacks should go on the Tucker show, and have the discussion. But you don't see that a whole lot. They're pretty sad over there. Anyway, let's see. Without going into more highlights, I think I will shut it down there unless somebody has another point to make. Catherine saying old man George Bush Sr. isn't innocent in this whole pedophilia thing either. That story when he invited those orphans. Yeah, I just saw that was resurfacing. I'd heard that for years, but I wasn't sure exactly what to make of it. But then I heard I just watched a YouTube video. I think it was yesterday or the day before from Dr. Steve Pachenik, who I haven't tuned into for a while, who used to, I think, work for George Bush in some capacity. And he was always a defender of him. But he actually mentioned that something to do with the orphans. And that was, it's pretty sick stuff. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that there's a lot of rotten people that are maybe involved in these circles. I mean, certainly the Catholic Church, and then you've got the royal family. Yeah, you've got Bush or Clinton or Wiener, Podesta, probably people in the music industry, Hollywood. There's a lot of the politicians, perhaps. Catherine's also saying Hillary and her Satanism. She's a high priestess, wondering how many babies she sacrificed for that title. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like she is. She's in some sort of there was something where she was in some witchcraft thing here in California. They had the Mariana Abramovich that came out in the WikiLeaks that they were doing spirit cooking with these people. So it would not surprise me in the least if Hillary's involved in these sort of eyes wide shut sort of, and then who knows, these human trafficking circles. Nothing surprises me anymore. And maybe that's how they get to high levels of power, is because they have this kind of serious dirt on them. And they're easy to control people when they're engaged in awful things like that. So who knows? I'd like to not believe that is, but I think that could be one of these huge scandals we could see falling apart over the next it's hopefully sometime in our lifetime. I don't know, is the public ready to handle this kind of stuff? But yeah, I think it's in order for us to get to have a bright future for humanity, we need to get rid of some of the corrupt elements on top that are involved in these sort of child trafficking stuff, which is another thing about the Clinton Foundation. There's a possibility that they're involved in that. Catherine saying, yet they don't hold the lies from the fake news. They just concentrate on the right. It's sickening. Yeah, because otherwise they'd have to go after themselves, and then they'd have to be accountable at some point, because what were they doing? They're supposed to be the watchdogs protecting the country with their journalism, and instead they're in the bag protecting their own and going after Trump and, Manafort and Roger Stone for things that are just small in comparison to what's going on the other side. Yeah, with the Soroses and the David Brocks and the Hillary Clintons and etc. Because the Franklin Files is what's hidden in it. Sick CIA, who Bush was. Yeah, I'm just glad that, for all of the flaws that Trump has, I'm just glad he's there, and it was not the Bushes or the Clintons, and it's not the same establishment in power anymore. So, it gives me a lot of hope, and we'll see what happens. So why don't we there's some criticism on Trump. This is a surprise to me, but it's something I need to cover and criticize. I'm not going to be somebody who is 100% on Trump's side. Can't be a cultist for either side. Got to call it like I see it on a case-by-case basis. And here's something that I was very shocked about. And I'm also shocked that I'm kind of in agreement with Ann Coulter, who I'm usually historically been very critical of. But sometimes she makes sense, and I praise her for when she does. And hold on one second. I have to let one of the cats in the room here. Maybe. No, it's not. Cat. What's up? All right, I thought I had one of Brian's cats clawing at the door, but I guess not. So let's get into some criticism of Trump. Now, this is surprising. This is out of the Washington Times. This was on Drudge. I think it's still on Drudge. It's saying support for Trump dwindles amongst the ICE officers. So for all of the big tough talk on border control and building a wall, you've got an issue here, and Ann Coulter has been very vocal on this. So ICE officers who endorsed President Trump in 2016 now say he has failed to follow through on his get tough promises, saying that catch and release of immigrants living illegally in the United States is not only still happening, but has gone into overdrive. So immigration and customs enforcement officers say they're being roped into such mundane tasks as opening the doors on vans to release immigrants already caught by Border Patrol agents. Imagine that. That's dragging the officers from their usual duties of nabbing fugitives or scouring local prisons and jails for immigrant criminals who lived illegally in the U.S. ready to be deported. The shell game is all the more ridiculous, the officers said, because Border Patrol agents could fill out paperwork and open the doors themselves, but the agency's leaders don't want to be part of catch and release. See, they got hundreds of man-hours are wasted each day at a time of crisis on the border. These are the leaders of the National ICE Council, a union that represents the ICE officers, said in a letter sent directly to Mr. Trump. That would be yesterday. The letter was sent just hours before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee voted to approve, Mr. Trump's pick to be the new director of ICE. That would be Ronald D. Vitiello. So the committee chairman, Ron Johnson, waved a copy of the ICE Council's letter during the vote and called the accusations troubling. He says, we're going to get to the bottom of this, to the reporters. And in the letter, the ICE Council said its president, Chris Crane, personally told Mr. Trump about the situation in a January meeting, and the council was disappointed that nothing has been done. Quoting, you frequently speak publicly of the great public safety work ICE is doing under your leadership. But to be direct, Mr. President, the rhetoric doesn't match reality, and we hope that this letter shows you the complete and total nonsense that is really taking place under the Trump administration on the southern border. But the White House so far has not responded to a request for comment. The letter comes as the situation at the southwestern border has grown out of control for Homeland Security. Some 160,000 migrant children and family members have been encountered at the border over the last 5 months, shattering previous records. Here's the other thing, is that the liberals have said, well, there's nothing going on there. This is all like made up. There's no crisis going on. Everything's fine. There's a low number of people coming in, but it's actually not true. Even the Washington Post was forced to admit that there's record numbers of people coming up to the borders. And then we're just catch and release. Oh, okay, but if you get through, you get through. And you just jam up, well, just show up in court someday. Or not. We just don't know who you are or what you're doing here, or if you respect the laws or the culture. But anyway, that's another issue. So these 160,000 migrant children have been encountered at the border. Most are arrested by the Border Patrol, though 10 to 15% are encountered by Customs and Border Protection officers trying to come through a border crossing without permission. So because of the overwhelming numbers, lack of bed space, and court rulings, Homeland Security usually processes and quickly releases most of them with the vain hope that they'll come back for hearings and eventual deportation. So they come back and they got, well, we got no place for you, so why don't you just go in and show up at this court date and then we'll deport you then. Okay, that's called catch and release. Mr. Trump said he was going to promise to stop it, but I guess the rate has increased and it spurred bureaucratic sparring. So that's pretty amazing. So let me finish up with this last paragraph here, which is interesting. Mr. Crane says the Border Patrol agents have the power to fill out the release paperwork and to do the releases on their own, but they don't want to face the embarrassment, so they make ICE officers fill out the release paperwork, and when they drive the immigrants to bus stations to be dropped off, they make an ICE officer actually open the van doors. I mean, I'm stunned. So the ICE people are supposed to find people that aren't supposed to be here and send them out of the country. But instead, if I'm getting this right, they find the people, but then they do the paperwork and releases on their own, and then take them to what, a bus stop, and actually just open the van door and say, hey, there you go. Off you go. Now make sure you show up at court 3 years later so we can have it makes no sense. But this is pretty alarming, because I thought Trump was supposed to be, he was going to send the military there. He was going to up the security. If he wasn't getting his wall, he was going to make sure that there was something being done. But apparently it's just, the border is as open as ever, and I thought Trump was going to do something. He's lost his leverage with this whole wall idea now that the budget has been finalized. So I don't get what's going on. And now he's got a big feud going on with Ann Coulter, who's saying she's blasting Trump as a shallow, narcissistic con man who is falling down on the job. So provocateur, this is out of a Media 8 article, is not backing down in her criticism of Trump as evidence from a recent talk. She says, Coulter continued her jabs at Trump, noting it's been harder to find people to talk to, saying, it's frustrating. I can't talk to Trump detractors because, as the subtitle to my last book indicated, they're insane. And I can't talk to the Trump flatterers because they think as soon as it comes out of his mouth, it has happened. No, he's an excellent talker. It's just when it comes to doing anything that he falls down on the job. She says Trump may be a shallow, narcissistic con man, but that doesn't mean the media are not the enemy of the people. Both things can be true, she added. And she did admit that one of the good things about a Trump presidency has been the total destruction of the lying media. The once diehard supporter of the Trump has fallen away since he has not kept his promise to build a border wall. Well, I think he tried. They did have the government shutdown, but now I'm confused. I mean, I was upset with the Democrats for at least, with $22 trillion in debt. It's hard for me to think, well, why can't they just give $5 billion? Let them build strategic parts of the wall, see if it works. And they'd rather shut the government down than give them, than to try to help, even though they have no other solutions for security or how to fix this problem. But anyway, it's I'm shocked. I don't know what to think. And of course, yes, and Coulter's right here, and that article backs it up. The ICE the people in ICE are questioning what Donald Trump is doing. I would have thought they had the full support, but apparently not. And Coulter's right in the fact that the media is the enemy, certainly, or at least fake news is the problem, which I guess is part of the reason why I'm here today. Because if the media was honest, I could be enjoying my own life somewhere else rather than fumbling around trying to do my own media work. But I have to call this stuff out. I don't get I don't get any of that George Soros money or the Fox News money. I don't get paid to push a narrative. So I have to try to read between the lines and figure these things out. And I don't know what to believe anymore. So I'm very disappointed. And I hope we'll get to some answers to that, or at least the White House or Trump will answer what is actually going on there. And yeah, he is a good talker, but we're going to get to the bottom of the truth sooner or later. And just one more quick piece of that. Speaking of which kind of ties together, and one of the stories from earlier is that a Natural News says the leftist logic: Russia shouldn't interfere in our election, but let's let all illegal immigrants vote. So maybe here this is part of the issues. They want to bring all these illegal immigrants here and give them voting rights, because there is a bill called HR1. It's been nicknamed the For the People Act, since it royally screws over the American citizens by diminishing their power in elections. And since most illegal immigrants want free stuff like food, health care, and possibly income, they're almost guaranteed to vote Democrat. The bill allows illegal immigrants to simply register to vote at any DMV office, no questions asked, and even vote in federal elections, not just local ones. Plus, the bill will allow all convicted felons to vote too, even if they were convicted for voter fraud. So only 6 Democrats in the House voted against the new bill. So here's a recap. The FBI, CIA, and NSA jointly stated with high confidence, that the Russians conspired to help Trump win the president, and this was all extremely illegal and against the people of America. But it all makes perfect sense to let several other countries invade America and vote for Democrats. So it's just kind of pointing out all the hypocrisy. Like, maybe we should just let Russians, maybe they should come into Mexico and then they can shoot across the border, and then we can get, by the same logic, and they vote. If, let's just say they wanted to come and vote for Trump, I mean, does that make any sense? How would we let people? But I mean, this is the insanity. And what other argument is there? I mean, it's just because we're all awesome humanitarians, bringing in basically refugees, letting them run amok, and then we're going to give them voting rights. I just don't see how we're rewarding that. But this is the insane state of affairs that we find ourselves in 2019. Let me get back to the control room. Sorry, Catherine. I've been, let's see, got a lot more comments to check out. Is this thing freezing, or is my computer going slow? I'm shutting down a lot of these windows, so I think I'd be freeing up more stuff. Here we go. I think it's working again. So where did we leave off? Catherine saying, well, that's something Trump must answer in regards to this fumbling with the border crisis, and that the ICE agents don't seem to know what's going on, or Trump's got their back, or what have you. She says this is unacceptable. I think that was what part of the nasty Nancy deal on the wall. Wow, he needs to tell us why it's still happening. She says, I'm going to bring this up on Twitter to him. He needs to say why this is happening. Thank you, Catherine. That's a good stuff to do. I love that's a good place to make your voice heard. Says Nancy said $1 for the wall while she sat there and said, I have $63 billion of taxpayers' money of foreign aid, which is a huge slap to the American taxpayer. Foreign aid meaning money to other foreign corrupt politicians and leaders. All the billions these countries never improve because it goes to their corrupt leaders. Yeah, we do send all this aid out, and it's supposed to help the people, and then the leaders take it and they disperse it themselves. Yeah, it doesn't seem to make any sense, and that's another problem we've got to deal with. And I don't know. I mean, I got to hold Trump accountable to some extent, because if he wants to end all this stuff, then he should be doing something about it. That's one of the criticisms that he had, is why are we sending all these different countries money, and where is it going? Why aren't we helping our own people? So hold on. What's going on? Money here, bro? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that, but we're almost done. We'll wrap things up reasonably soon, but I'll touch on a few more articles for sure. So Catherine saying we can go to Mexico and try to vote. It won't happen. It's not allowed. Exactly. It doesn't. Good point. Nowhere else does this happen but here, and we've somehow normalized it. I don't get it either. So bringing them in, the causes crime to go up, lots of issues with immigration, but of course they try to say that there's the immigrants are committing crimes in less numbers. I don't know entirely if that's true, but certainly there are some problems, and we have this insane thing with the sanctuary states and cities. where they can get away with any number of things, and it's just nothing happens. So a lot of big problems. Moving on, I probably only got a few other odds and ends I can leave with today. Actually, I'd probably, since you're talking about Twitter, Catherine, I should pull up Twitter and see if there's anything fun trending now. Before, it was the whole Greenpeace issue. Apparently, Trump said that one of the co-founders of Greenpeace, he said it was on Fox and Friends, but then there was the debate whether he was actually one of the co-founders or if he was just some lobbyist. And it's hard to say. His name is Patrick Moore, the co-founder of Greenpeace, appeared Tuesday on Fox and Friends to discuss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and her Green New Deal. Moore, who called Cortez a pompous little twit, slammed the so-called climate crisis, calling it fake news and fake science. And yeah, the jury's still out on what's going on with this whole climate change crisis, if there is one. It seems like it's been quite a cold winter everywhere, so I'm not sure how much I buy into the whole I mean, there's definitely climate change, but is it man-made global warming? I've kind of been I'm not really sure how much I buy into that, but of course I do think we should absolutely get off the fossil fuels, but not like what the AOC is proposing. We're basically getting rid of all petroleum. I don't think that's going to happen overnight. But anyway, yeah, the science is still up for debate. Apparently, this guy did, he was a founder to some extent. It's kind of that debate. He's been around there for a long time, certainly doesn't see eye to eye on them anymore. And you'd think he was a lobbyist for Monsanto because he was, I can't entirely get behind him because he was caught on camera arguing about how safe it was for glyphosates or for the Roundup, which has obviously been a problem. Something Monsanto is one of their chemicals. It's hurting people. And he said it was so safe that he could drink it. And then he was busted on the interview because they challenged him. They said, hey, well, if it's so safe to drink, why don't you do it? And of course he didn't. So he's not the most credible character. But then, of course, you've got the climate change thing. It's 97% of scientists, but of course they're all funded by they're getting all their big grant money because they're pushing the narrative that it's man-made global warming, or that it fits what they're trying to push. So it's a little bit of both sides, and I'm not really sure what to believe, but certainly nothing has been conclusive. All of their predictions about the global warming and the end of all the polar ice caps melting hasn't happened. They're growing faster than ever. Any change in the temperature of the Earth has been pretty much infinitesimal at best. And no, this planet, at 4.5 billion years, has gone through quite a cycle, and it does fluctuate in periods of warmth, or you have ice ages when it gets cold. So to blame it all on man is not fair, and but of course it's disturbing when the petroleum, the big oil, is saying that it's not. So anyway, that's another one of those issues that's up for debate, but that was one of the trending topics on Twitter today. Moving on. So what are the trending topics? I don't know. National college admissions scandal, something to do with Harvard. Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin indicted in a national college admissions scandal. This is pretty much dominating, but I don't know enough about it. I'd say, let's see, Felicity Huffman, Lori Loughlin, Harvard, Aunt Becky, Ivy League, and Yale, and admissions scam are all trending. And Operation Varsity Blues, that might be part of it. Georgetown, is that another one? So apparently all of the trends are now on some issue I don't know anything about, The only thing that's not is about Mitt Romney and his birthday cake made out of a giant Twinkie, which doesn't really seem like that big of a news story to me. So apparently these two people or 40 people charged in a nationwide college admissions exam scandal, according to court documents. But right now, I don't know who either of these people are, if they're celebrities or what have you. So I'll probably just back off for now. And if it's really that fascinating, I'll cover it on tomorrow's show, unless somebody wants to chime in or post an article, because I am lost on that. All right. So Catherine says Trump wanted to stop the foreign aid until our country is more stable. Absolutely. Says, I'm with you on the climate change. It isn't what they tried to make us believe. Yeah, it'd be a lot different if it's some significant temperature increases, or if there had been, a lot of ice sheets melting, or, Antarctica breaking in half, or something like that. But nothing that their models have shown has been accurate. And to me, it just seems like an excuse to tax and micromanage the population. And there's also, with the carbon credits, there's a way to make money and turn that into a scam as well. So I don't trust either side on that. But I do believe in, of course, being good caretakers of the earth and finding clean energy. That should be the way we want to do it anyway, but not maybe any extreme measures of the Green Deal. Catherine saying, if things can be honest without money being involved, we may find the truth. Yep, the BS is not acceptable anymore. Our people are awake and want the truth, as ugly as it may be. She sees, Catherine's going to go on Twitter. First thing is got with your channel. So thank you. Says, I've enjoyed. Thank you very much for being with me, Catherine. A lot of great stuff. I hope to see you again. I'll have to find you on Twitter. You have to put your handle on. I don't know. I'm going to try to get on Twitter more. I know I've been shadow banned to the point where it's not fun anymore to be on there, to participate anymore. A lot of censorship, but certainly used to be a little playground for my amusement, and a lot of good just time to chat and have a discussion. But it's gotten pretty. It's changed. It's changed a bit, and anyway, but still an interesting platform, and it's still a way to make your voice heard and to interact and have a little fun and spread some causes and all that good stuff. So thank you very much, Catherine. You have been awesome. Appreciate it. We will see you again. I'll follow you. See you on the New American Media. Thank you very much. I don't know what else I have. Maybe a little bit on the one of the other radicals on the new Democratic Party, and this would be Representative Omar. That's from my former state of Minnesota. She's been under fire for a few different reasons, and I was quite critical for a number of them. But I mean, some of the stuff I think I'm actually in agreement with her, and I do like when people are bold and throw some of their ideas out there, unpopular, even if they are. So Omar continues to try to backtrack on her Obama criticism by bashing Trump as really not human. Yeah, so she's been under fire for saying Obama, for dare criticizing dear leader. That's one of the big problems I had with the Democratic Party, is that they were so, during this whole Obama administration, they were just in lockstep, and you couldn't criticize anything from Obama, or you were just you were punished by your own party. And that's where they lost a lot of their credibility for me. Just be intellectually honest. Don't be, they've turned into a cult. So Minnesota firebrand and freshman Ilhan Omar attempted to walk back her criticism of former President Barack Obama from an interview last week, saying it's silly to equate President Trump to Obama and insinuating that the president is really not human. So when asked if she considers Trump and Obama to be similar, the Democrat said there was absolutely not a comparison between the two presidents. One is human and the other is really not. Okay, well, I appreciate her brash opinion. So the change of tune comes after Omar's Friday view with Politico, during which she equated the president's predecessors' policies to his current ones, saying that many of the people that came before Trump had really bad policies, and that the presidents that came before Trump were just more polished than he was. Also said freshman Democrat took digs at Obama, calling out the president for his immigration policy of caging the kids at the border and droning countries around the world. So, yeah, she came under fire for that. And, of course, she was attacked for being anti-Semitic, because the Congresswoman's online comments prompted a House resolution of disapproval condemning anti-Semitism that was eventually changed to a larger anti-hate resolution after pressure from more left-leaning Democrats and outside leftist groups. Omar was not mentioned by name in the resolution. So, yeah, I mean, there was genuine thing. I mean, yes, Obama did do a lot of bad things, but you're not allowed to say that if you're a Democrat or your whole party comes after you. So I don't think she's got any reason to apologize for what she said, and she doesn't have any agreement to it. And I don't think she should apologize for the anti-Semitism. I didn't think that was that bad. The other problem is that you're not allowed to criticize Israel, or I'm not, I do not have anything to do with radical Islam, but there are some issues with Israel. And one of the problems I have, say, with our Congress or even Fox News, is that they seem to be 100% defenders of Israel no matter what, even when they're in the wrong. And I think they are in the wrong probably at least 10, maybe 20% of the time when it comes to things that Israel does or the relations with Palestine. Certainly they're not above any criticism, and it's just not honest. And of course, this AIPAC, very powerful president in Washington, it's well known, and they do give a lot of money. Oh, she said it's all about the Benjamins, baby. And I think she's absolutely right. So AIPAC they get in the pockets of everybody, and that's fine. But I mean, when we get to a point where we can't criticize our ally even when they are wrong, then that's a problem. So I actually give props to Omar for saying that. And in fact, on that note, you've got an article here from the Anti-Media saying that American support for Israel falls to the lowest point in a decade in a new poll. So this is a Gallup poll since 2009. And the overall amount of Americans who take the side of Israel in its conflict with the Palestinians is now 59%, a 5-point drop from the 64% who did so in 2018. So that number is falling. But if you talk to anybody in Washington or on Fox News and maybe even the regular liberal media, it's 100%. Israel is never wrong, and it's not fair. We have to criticize our allies and get to the truth. But anyway, that does not make anybody anti-Semitic. It just means you're being honest. So, and then when of course these people are getting, paid from these big, from an AIPAC, they're not going to criticize. And that's the whole idea of getting, money out of politics. So anyway, that's my note on that. One more note on Israel. Netanyahu, who I have never liked, who I think of kind of as Israeli Cheney. He's just a warmongering criminal who has been under fire and who is in a big trouble, involved in scandals. He's still in power, technically, and he's considering legalizing weed to court voters. So he's reaching out for the stoner vote. The Israeli prime minister said he's looking into legalizing cannabis in an interview Monday on his newscast. He's weighing embracing pot as polls show the new party that supports marijuana gaining steam. So I guess it'd be like if the Republicans, I don't know. So that would be a popular topic, I suppose. If the Democrats were pushing for federal legalization of weed, which wouldn't be a surprise. You could see the Republicans joining if they thought that was an issue that was going to hurt them, and it's going to apparently happen there. But of course, Netanyahu could be looking at some jail time, or who knows. He's certainly under a lot of fire. He's going to be charged with bribery, fraud, and a breach of trust, pending a hearing where he can plead his case. I didn't. That's surprised. Israel's local cannabis industry has been blooming, with the government approving medical cannabis exports this January, and they're making a lot of revenue on it. So that is the new trend going there. Yes, Catherine, it was great to have you. Says we'll be back here. It's not fun on social media either. I will have to follow you at Catherine BH. Thank you again very much. And I guess if there's anything else, the only other big international kind of story going on is that the Brexit deal is crushed by the MPs again, meaning that we're no nearer to quitting the EU after, was it almost 3 years? Has it been that long? Yeah, I guess it was. That was a vote. I think that was June 23rd of 2016 is when they decided that they're going to do the Brexit. Britain was going to get out of the EU, and still, it's been such a complicated issue that they're unable to get the deal done so far. So we'll see how that all works out. But that is one of the late-breaking stories. And that is about it for me today. So thank you all for tuning in. And hopefully we'll get all this equipment sorted out in the software. We'll get Brian back on. We'll get back to the regular Agree to Disagree, so we can start putting out daily content. Start getting these split screens, trying to figure out the right software with Skype and what have you. I don't even know if I'm doing this microphone right. Am I getting close enough? It beats last episode because I couldn't even get the microphone right. But anyway, I might have to get a new webcam. But thank you for your patience, and we're looking forward to big things. 2019 with the New American Media, changing the narrative, changing the world. But thank you again for tuning in. Blake Walley, and we'll catch you next time. Peace, love, I'm out.